This is for Year 11 methods. It comes out of Chapter 2. It's 2, Section 11, question number 10. A parabolic sandbar is modelled by mx equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where mx is the northern distance from x and x is the eastern distance from the lighthouse. So I must have my lighthouse here because mx is how far north and x is how far east the lighthouse is. Okay. I have 3 points. One is 300 metres directly north. So I've got one point here which is at 300. I have another point which is 200 metres west at minus 200, and I have another point which is 100 east and minus 200 south. Part A says put those in coordinate form, so I have a point which is 0, 300. I have another point which is minus 200, 0, and I've got a third point which is 100 and minus 200. Part B says substitute into the original equation and find the equation described in the sandbar. So I've got mx equals ax squared plus bx plus c. I'm going to use the class pad in 2 ways, and I'll demonstrate them both. I'm going to use stats and use a quadratic regression, and I'm going to use main, and I'll use the simultaneous equations module with 3 equations, 3 unknowns solving for A, B, C. Okay, so I'm going to go into stats. I've already loaded in the information. List 1 is the x coordinate, list 2 is the y coordinate. So this is 0, 300, minus 200, 0, 100, minus 200. And then I go calc quadratic regression. It's going to ask, is list 1 x and is list 2 y? And yes, so okay. It tells me the r squared is 1, so it's a perfect fit, where a equals negative 0.2166, b equals negative 2.83333, and c equals 300, where a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the constant. Okay, in graphs and tables and in stats, the calculator won't give exact answers if the answers are decimals or they're not rational. So I can go into main, and since I see these are either 1/3 or 2/3, because they're recurring 6 and the recurring 3, and what I can do is I can go into main, and I can actually put negative 0.02, get rid of that, 1666. And if I'm in standard and I press it, that wasn't enough 6s, so I'll go back up and put a few more 6s. That still wasn't enough 6s. So if I put a few more 6s, it will then recognise that it's a recurring 6, and that's the exact answer, negative 13 on 600. And the other term was 2.8333. Now that won't be enough 3s, as you can see. It just put it over 100,000, so I put a few more 3s, and it was 17 on 6. Now I can't quite remember if that was negative or positive, so I might just go back to menu, back to stats, back to calc, back to quadratic regression, okay, and it was negative. They're both negative. Okay, so back into main. Therefore my answer was y equals x squared minus 17 on 6x plus 300 as being the rule as per using my stats and doing a quadratic regression. The other way of solving it is to actually use the main component and choose simultaneous equations. So what I'd actually like to do is I'd like to define this function. So I'm going to go variables, ax squared plus bx plus c, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to actually define it, interactive, define, call it f of x. So that's now f of x. So if I take f of x and put it in a new line, press X, it gives me that. Now I know that f of 0 equals 300. And I know that f of negative 200 equals 0. And when I press execute, it will replace x with negative 200 and y with 0, which gives me my second equation. And my third piece of information was f of 100 equals negative 200. And when I press execute, that gives me my third equation. Okay, so if we go into 2D, simultaneous equations, press it a second time, I'll get a third equation. Touch this, drag and put that into the equations, touch the second one into the equations, touch the top one into equations, and I'm solving this for A, comma B, comma C, and when I press execute, it tells me the same three answers that I got when I was doing it by hand. Oh, when I did it in stats, which is up here. Here we go, minus 13 on 600, and I got minus 13 on 600. So that's part B. Relative to the lighthouse, what is the northerly point of the sandbar? Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to open up a graphing window, memory standard, okay, and I'd like to get my equation. I've got it written up here. I'd like to get that and drag and drop, and maybe I need to zoom out. Zoom auto. Now I need to think about this a little bit. I know that I have an x-intercept at minus 200, so I might go to minus 300, and I might go across to 300, and then I'll press OK, and now I'll go zoom auto, and I can see that the most northerly part will be just here. I can do analysis, gsolve maximum, and I can see that the maximum point is 392.6 meters.